Welcome to the QP Diaries Podcast. This podcast is all about inspiring and empowering the next generation of QP professionals and future quality assurance leaders in the UK pharmaceutical industry. On every episode, I'll be speaking to QPs from across the industry, and our listeners will have the opportunity to hear their stories, their expertise, and we'll be discussing topics to foster growth and learning to help you develop your career as a qualified person. If you're passionate about quality assurance and want to learn from some of the very best QPs and thought leaders from across the industry, then this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Dal Pawar, the founder of AssureBio, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Phoebe, welcome to the QP Diaries Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thanks, Dan. Thanks for inviting me on. Got to say, I'm really excited about the discussion that we're about to have. So, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you. Thank you for agreeing to have this conversation with me today. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, and you've actually been a big supporter of creating the QP Diaries podcast. And I suppose our mission is to help inspire people in the industry. So today's a good opportunity for you to tell your story about your career and share your expertise. And yeah, I think our listeners are really going to enjoy this one. I suppose before we get into that, can you share a brief overview of your career journey as a quality assurance and QP professional, please?
Yeah, I certainly can. So I'm a contract QP. I became a QP in 2007. That day of the Viva still looms large in my mind for lots of reasons. It was a culmination of quite some time to get my education and experience up to date. Also, the trepidation of the actual Viva itself, and then the elation of being told that you've passed. So, it's just a real roller coaster of emotions on that day. But I have to say that my journey to being a QP is perhaps not the same as other QPs.
Okay.
So I've been in the industry for 30 years, and 15 of those I've actually spent in manufacturing and development. So not in quality assurance and not as a QP. And the decision to go down the route of QP was actually for a different purpose. So I became a QP because in order to become a site director of a manufacturing site, I needed to have been a quality director. And in order to be a quality director in this particular organisation, I needed to be a qualified person. So it was a stepping stone for me to becoming what I really wanted to be, which was a site director. I was successful, so did become a QP, did become a quality director, and also became a site director. And after a few years, I realised that actually, what drove me to that position wasn't really the desire to be a director of a site. It was actually to affect change. And although I felt I did affect change as a site director, I didn't really affect change in the way that I really wanted to. So I had a bit of internal reflection, and I realised that actually becoming a quality a QP, a qualified person, and what that role actually entails, I felt I could affect more change, being an active QP than perhaps in any other role. So it was quite an unusual journey to becoming a QP. But having said that, I've been a qualified person since 2007. I've worked in some fabulous organisations. I've learned a hell of a lot from some wonderful people, and I can say hand on heart, 9 years being a contract QP, I wouldn't change it. Absolutely love the role, love all the challenges, and looking forward to the next adventure. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So initially the ambitions were not to be a QP. You wanted to go down the leadership route, but then, a part and parcel of becoming that sort of quality director, as you mentioned, was to go through the Viva process to become eligible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think, you learn quite a lot about yourself going through that journey, and perhaps some of my aspirations and ambitions were perhaps viewed in a very narrow way, and going down that journey of becoming a QP actually really opened me up to a lot more to the role than perhaps I first thought. I think, like a lot of people, QPs are associated with batch certification, associated with batch release, and there's a sort of a transactional, almost mechanical aspect to that role. But that's such a very small part of what being a QP is all about. And, and hopefully through the QP diaries and through the report that you generated, we'll start to see and really maybe open up some people's eyes to what actually a qualified person does.
Brilliant. And you just touched upon it there. You recently kindly supported us on the QP industry report, which we've received some really positive feedback on. And I think in preparation for this, we had a conversation around today's topic, and we thought it was best to continue the conversation around the very fashionable subject of artificial intelligence.
Indeed, yes.
So it's a subject that, for me personally, I'm still very uncomfortable with, and I'm sure a lot of people are. So everyone's learning more and more about AI at the moment, but it's here. It's becoming a part of everyday life, and I think the best way to do it is to confront it head on. So I think it'd be really good to discuss the incentives of AI in the industry. So in the report, you mentioned how you can see AI impacting the QP in the future, and in particular, how AI could take a role in learning and development for trainee QPs and obviously QPs in general. Can you expand further on that, please?
Yeah, I certainly can. So I think just before I do that, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think, AI, nobody was really talking about AI 12 months ago. But all of a sudden, ChatGPT became visible, and all of a sudden, it's the hot topic. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's scrambling, mobilizing, trying to find ways that they can utilize AI and they can utilize ChatGPT in what they do. And it is perhaps the most transformative event in our human history, and that sounds very grand, but I think it signifies a real step change in how we do work. And AI in some quarters is viewed in a very fearful way, and in other quarters it's viewed in a very exciting way. I tend to be in the latter. I'm really excited about AI, and my curiosity and my interest was really piqued by my partner's recently graduated son, because he talked about this ChatGPT helping him prepare for an interview, and he was explaining all about it to me, and I just became hooked. So I've taken quite a keen interest in AI and all the uses that AI can deliver for us. And as you rightly say, in the report, in the article, I talked about various areas that I feel AI can really help. And perhaps one of the most exciting is in the learning and development area. AI per se is doing what a lot of technology does. It's democratizing knowledge, and it's no different with the knowledge that you need to become QP. One of the scenarios that I posted in the article was the facility of I drew a parallel between a flight simulator. So becoming an airline pilot, you don't study. Take a load of tests, and then they let you behind the wheel. Is it a wheel? Behind the wheel of the plane. You have to go through, really intense training, really intense education, and you go through simulations. And these are real world simulations in a very safe environment. And I just, when you think to yourself, could AI really do something like that for a QP? And I think, I've just thought of an original idea. of course, when you go onto the internet, when you go into AI, you realise that actually other organisations are already doing it, which is fantastic. So it's a real thing, and it will happen. So I really see, one of the really key aspects of AI is utilising this sort of simulator technology. So using things like virtual reality, augmented reality to really help provide an in-depth education and training of the trainee QP and the QP. It'll be done in a very safe environment because they won't be let loose on real world situations, but also be able to really stress them and put them into uncomfortable situations and just see how they react to it, because that is what real life is all about. When you're a QP, you don't get trained to deal with those. Friday afternoon, we've just had a complaint that there's an adverse event. There's nobody else around. What do you do? And I think utilising technologies like virtual reality, AI, and augmented reality, you'll be able to simulate those sorts of things. So I think that's one area that I think would be really, really valuable, and we'll really start to see that explode in the coming months and years. I think that the next area that I also sort of touched on was the continuing professional development. So. Yeah. It's a cornerstone of becoming a QP and maintaining that QP status, is that you've got to demonstrate the continuous professional development. And I really do see AI being a really valuable tool to help the QP stay up to date, to understand the legislation changes and how it impacts them. So I think there's sort of two areas that I think could be really, really powerful to really support, the trainee QP and the QP attain the QP status and also maintain the QP status. And perhaps we can, explore those in a little bit more detail.
Brilliant. No, it's really interesting. And as you touched upon that, you've actually seen it in organisations and the application of AI. I mean, what in particular have you seen in regards to that?
Yeah, so there's a number of organisations that are offering virtual reality and augmented reality to support the pharmaceutical industry. So this is not these are not industries that are so far removed from the pharmaceutical environment. They're actually here and now. And there are some organisations. Virtuoso is or Virtuosi, I think. I'll probably get not pronounced it very well, but if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see that I'm a real strong advocate of them. So this organisation offers services to the sterile manufacturing sector, C and GT technology, and they really provide training experience that not only illustrates how to do things, so how to perform sterile manufacturing, but also the why behind it. So this organisation would work with your company. They would tailor the training to suit your requirements, to meet your company procedures, and really create a safe operating environment for the trainee QP and for the QP to really explore virtual hands-on experience of manufacturing, because that's really one of the big challenges for QPs and trainee QPs, is to get that practical experience, to be exposed to that type of knowledge and that type of environment. And if you're lucky enough to work in a large organisation that has all that technology available in its manufacturing network, and they can afford to take you out your day to day, because invariably you'll have to relocate for a period of time in order to do that. And if they can afford to train you in that arena, so there'll be some impact on their efficiencies, you'll get that experience. But of course, not everyone has that luxury, and that's why I feel something like this VR and AR technology will be able to deliver that, because you'll be able to do it in a virtual world. So I do see that as a really leading the way for learning and development, and really satisfying a huge need when you're on your journey to becoming a QP and maintaining it. So I'm really excited to see that, and I want to see that expand further as we progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from my perspective, and when I'm talking to trainee QPs and the long journey that they have to go on, I think one of the biggest challenges is the actual exposure to different organisations when they have to go for the application form, and I suppose meeting the criteria in order to start progressing towards the Viva assessment. And I think the biggest barrier is, can they get that exposure? Who do they know where they can network and to go onto a different site? So essentially, I think you mean that, the virtual reality will sort of help support the training.
Absolutely. So, one of the things about learning is, we can all sit in a classroom, we can all absorb the lectures, make the notes on it, and they can provide some, some case studies that you can work on in a sort of classroom situation, and that's useful, and it adds value. But it's that practical experience, and it's the application of that knowledge in an environment that is as close to real world as you can get, and that's where virtual reality, that's where augmented reality can support. Again, back to the the flight simulator analogy. It's not just about training a pilot to take off and land a plane. They create situations where they lose an engine, or there's a bird strike, or there's they're going through a storm, or the first officer's taken ill, or these types of scenarios that they hope that will never happen, but they've got a plan for. And what you find is that those pilots are they're more rounded. They're able to deal with those situations when they do happen in real life because they've gone through it, they've experienced it in these simulations. And I see virtual reality delivering the same for the QP. So creating an environment where they're in a manufacturing suite and something goes wrong, and they have to react in that situation. And it's helping them react in that environment, and looking at their problem solving skills, looking at their decision making skills. So I feel virtual reality and augmented reality are able to deliver that for us, and it just helps the QP and the trainee QP understand why they behave the way that they did, and how they can change their behavior, change their thought processes. So I think it's definitely the way forward, and I think it will also accelerate the learning and understanding of that trainee QP.
Yeah, I think the word acceleration is certainly critical with the application of AI. Do you believe that with the future of AI and the impact that it could have on learning and development, in particular for trainee QPs, that we could see more QPs enter into the population of eligibility?
I certainly do, because if you look at barriers to entry, it is about satisfying the requirements of that application form, and and quite rightly, it's a pretty tall barrier to overcome, and there are a lot of good people out there that just don't have the opportunity because they're not exposed to the situations that enable them to tick those sections off. So I certainly do feel that it will open up, and again, back to that word democratizing, it will open up the opportunity to a much wider field, and rightly so, because if you're privileged to work in a company that has all that available, then you don't have those barriers, which is fantastic, and good luck to you and wish you all the success. Those individuals that don't necessarily have that, they're as good, and they should be given the opportunity. And I feel that's where technologies like AI, the VR enabled AI, will help them. So and I'm all for that, because as we're a very small crew in the QP sector. We're in demand, and we need more people to join. So I'm all for it, and I feel this is a great way to help facilitate that.
Yeah. The challenge, though, which I believe is there's going to be a slowness to accept this approach.
Yeah, of course, yeah, and I think again you've touched on something that we are naturally renowned for. We're very cautious. We're heavily regulated. So adopting new technologies, adopting new practices is it's difficult for us, and we're more of a follower than necessarily an early adopter, and that's proven to be really really useful for the industry. But I feel with things like utilizing AI in learning and development, it's a really safe way to open up the industry to what AI can do and to what it's capable of, because we're not asking it to make decisions. We're not asking it to take the place of somebody doing an activity. It's about supporting. It's about being an assistant, and I think one of the areas that I'm really keen to understand is how AI can help the QP with learning. So I've touched on VR, which is a really kind of a niche specific example. But I want to look at other ways that AI can support. And I think we're all probably familiar with chatbots and the concept of assistants. Whether you're a Siri follower or an Alexa or Cortana, these are pretty narrow examples of what AI assistants could do. I'm talking about an AI assistant that can, we talk about CPD, that can set up alerts on legislation updates, that can monitor all legislation that's relevant to you and your industry, that it can curate and summarize scientific advances. So it does all of the hard yards for you. Spending time setting up alerts or doing internet searches, it's value adding, but wow, does it take a lot of time and effort? And that's one of the things that QPs don't have a lot of. We are time poor, so anything that can help us liberate our time, I'm all for. And so I see this concept of an AI chatbot or assistant that's there, always active, always listening in at work, that can be set up to focus on your specific needs. If you've got an interest in a certain type of certain process, it can be alert to that, scouring the internet, but also scouring the internal knowledge base of an organisation. One of the big things that both frustrate and excite me about working with large organisations is just that depth of knowledge that's within the business. Yeah. But my goodness me, is it really difficult to get your hands on it? And a lot of organisations do struggle with that knowledge management, because if that company knows something, then everybody in that company should know it. Obviously, assuming it's not business confidential or whatever. But I'm talking about sort of processing knowledge. Yeah. Or if errors have occurred in a certain site, and they've done a root cause investigation, they've come up with CAPAs, I'd want to know about it, because if it affects my site, we should be sharing that information. And I think that's where these AI assistants inside the business can really help. They will just filter through all of that, weed through all of the unnecessary bits of information, bits of legislation, and just tease out those things that are really crucial for the QP. There's nothing more frustrating than seeing a regulatory update and then opening up the file, realizing it's a 45-page beast and going, wow, okay, I'm gonna need quite a lot of time to ingest it. Now there are organisations out there that will summarise it for you, and you can utilise those. But having that AI chatbot who can do everything for you in that capacity, you don't have to search out that company X. You don't have to set up that alert Y. It's all there under one assistant. I also I'm jumping around a bit here because I'm really excited about it. So it's probably coming across a bit jumbled.
No,
there's a podcast. There's many podcasts that I listen to. One of them is it talks about the curiosity advantage, and there was a recent discussion with a learning provider who'd created this chatbot to help educate children. And it's a fascinating insight into what technology is all about. This chatbot is really interactive. It doesn't just give information. It tests the child on their knowledge. If the child makes a mistake, it will prompt the child, and it will give the child advice on what to do next. It will use Socratic questioning to try and get the child to think for themselves. And I just see that application being lifted and put into an adult environment, and just how powerful that can be to help people understand understand the technologies, understand the legislation updates, understand the process improvements, and to be able to articulate them back. So I really do feel that AI is A, it's here to stay, and B, it's going to be really supportive to the trainee QP and the QP.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we all value our time, and I think the feedback that I get when I'm speaking to people in my network is that they just don't have time. They're so busy doing their day-to-day job, and then they have family life on top of that. And where do they have the opportunity to, as you mentioned, to support their continuous professional development? So you're a big believer that AI will give that time back, help the efficiencies around training, and hopefully give people that platform to develop themselves in their careers.
100%. I think if you look at the time invested in acquiring knowledge, a lot of it is spent hunting. It's one of my phrases is going down a rabbit hole where you get sidetracked into something that perhaps isn't really your primary focus. AI will help filter through all of that, and will do all of that searching for you, and provide it to you in a form that that's best suited to your learning style. Because that's something else that I'm seeing a lot of interest and a lot of advancement in, is that it can adapt how it talks to you, depending on what type of learning style you have. So it's really personalised, which is why it's called a personal assistant. It's really personalised to the QP or the trainee QP. How you like to interact, how you like to learn, when you like to learn. So I envisage a future in the not too distant future. I'll have an assistant that when I sign in the morning, it'll know that Phoebe really likes to. She's really engaged first thing in the morning, less so towards the end of the day. So I'll get prompt questions about maybe something that I'd read or that the assistant had shared with me the day before, just to really prompt me to, did I remember that? Have I really understood that? So and I like to do it in little chunks, so it won't be a 3-hour interrogation. It'll just be a 5 minutes over a cup of coffee, because that's the style that I like. And this, you'll get this personalization with AI to help deliver that. So I'm really struggling to see any downsides. Of course, we do need those early adopters to demonstrate to the industry that it's the way to go. that it can work and that it's successful, and then you'll get the followers that will naturally want to take that as well, because they'll see the benefits of it. And I think one of those statements that I know we share quite often, which is, AI won't take your job away from you, but somebody using AI will. And that's the way to view it. AI is a support to you. It's a tool. It's an assistant, and it's there to take away all those heavy lifting, all those hard yards, where you can just sit down and just really focus on the value add.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, no, it's fascinating, and you really sound like you've already adapted your mindset around AI, and you're embracing it, you're understanding it, you're not afraid of it, and you're being very optimistic about the future and how it could potentially help yourself in your career.
Yeah.
What advice then would you provide to someone who potentially is a bit cautious around the topic now, especially in the industry? As you say, there is a slowness to accept the application at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. And I think, and rightly so, because take something like ChatGPT. I'm a big supporter of it. I'm a subscriber, so I get the elite version with all the whistles and bells, and I have lots of conversations with it, which is a bit odd to say that you're talking to a machine, but we have conversations, and occasionally it's what it gives back to me are, I think politely they call them hallucinations, which is a polite way of saying duff information. So you do need to have your skeptical hat on. You do need to challenge it. You need to look at the sources that it cites to attain its knowledge. Knowledge can be good quality, knowledge can be poor quality. So, by all means, people should look to trial these free versions and just play around with the systems themselves. When it comes to adopting it in your company, you will be aligned with your IT team, and you'll need to have a strategy on how you're going to engage with AI from an ethical standpoint, from a moral standpoint, but also from a credibility standpoint. So we love to validate in our industry, and it will be required. So and that's why I think if we look at the sort of the entry points into our industry, it is around learning and development, and you can see how it can take a package that's already created and how it can create it itself. So you've got that reference point that you can work against, because we like to see evidence, and so that's a way that you can get that comfort to really accept and embrace AI.
Yeah. I think when we last discussed this subject, you mentioned that everything has to be absolutely flawless, and from a QP's perspective, as you say, the critical thinkers, then it's a bit of a non-negotiable. At the end of the day, it's the patient safety at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's paramount. So that's the number one priority of all QPs. Our employer is the patient. It just so happens that a patient, it conveys it through the company that you work for, but it is the patient first and foremost. So, I'd never be in a situation where I would wholly rely on the information that comes out of AI. I will always challenge it, and that's essential for a QP, is that you will always challenge the information you get back. That's an attribute that QPs have. That's not to say we're mistrustful of people or of processes, but we always try and challenge it from different angles to see if that's really right in that situation. Would it be right in every situation? And the same holds with AI as well. So yeah, I think it's not the absolute 100% unequivocal curator of knowledge. It's flawed in a way that we're flawed. It's created through algorithms, and those algorithms will have some biases in them, and that's where we utilize our validation and design of experiments to really challenge those situations, to try and iron out those biases, so that what we do get is a neutral view that we can then utilize as part of our global decision making. It's just one element, and that's what it should be viewed by.
Yeah, brilliant. No, thank you for all that information, Phoebe. And I think you mentioned earlier in the conversation that it's pretty much been in the last year that AI, in my eyes, as well, has become fashionable. I suppose my final question to you is, how do you see the role of a QP evolving in the coming years? I mean, say, next 2 to 3 years, as an example.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it will change. I've read the future of work studies or the future of jobs, and they in every case they say that the skill sets that you have today, you'll probably lose about 40% of those skills, because they won't be required in the future, and you'll acquire 25% of the skills, I think the stats are. So you'll have new skills to acquire. And so the QP will need to adopt those new skill sets when they interact with AI. They'll need to become more data savvy if they're not already, because there will be a focus on data generation with AI, because one of the opportunities that we have is using AI to pull together information sources throughout a manufacturing organization, and really challenge to see if there are links between this process of working this way and the external temperature. So trying to find links. So the QP will need to be more data savvy, more data aware. We'll also need to have there'll be a new lexicon that we will be adopting. So we'll have things like prompts and prompt engineering. These are skills that are probably quite alien to people today, but it's really just doing what we do today, which is asking questions in a different way, to see if that information coming back to us is the same or not. So yeah, there'll be some new skills that we'll need to acquire, but I think fundamentally, the QP will still be critical thinker, will still be a critical decision maker, will still need to explore inputs from all experts across the organisation, and to weigh up and make those decisions based on that. And AI will just be an input to that.
Yeah, so I suppose in terms of the future and the evolving years for a QP, I mean, it's using the tools, the technology, asking the questions, having the conversations with peers, with the organisations that they're working for, and really taking advantage and embracing it. And I think that has to be the sort of key message at the end of this. So thank you so much, Phoebe, for all your words of wisdom and sharing of your knowledge, and you've really articulated the advantages of AI and how it can be utilised in the training world for quality assurance professionals, trainee QPs, pretty much everyone. So that's been pretty fascinating. I hope that we can have another conversation, because this is evolving, and we can delve deeper into different advantages once again for the pharmaceutical industry with the implementation of AI. But I suppose for now, if any of our listeners want to contact you, if they're intrigued to have this type of conversation with you, what would be the best way to get in touch? Would it be via LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I think LinkedIn profile, so Phoebe Clough. I don't think there are that many of us around.
Yeah.
So yeah, LinkedIn is the best way of contacting me. And I think you're right. I think, this is the start of the conversation, and you can tell by the areas that I'm going into. It's the possibilities feel endless to me, and I'm really excited about it. But it'd be nice to come back to this, revisit it when we've got some perhaps more tangible examples. So where we've got evidence of early adopters really making great strides and really demonstrating the value of AI, and using those case studies to maybe bring those skeptics along, and convert them to embrace the future, because AI is the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I really look forward to next time, Phoebe, and having further conversations on this. But no, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks very much, Dal. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye. A huge thank you to our special guest and to our listeners for tuning into the QP Diaries podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. As the founder of Assured Bio, we created the podcast to support our wider quality assurance community, which aligns to our dedicated offering as a recruitment agency, providing services to the pharmaceutical and biotech industry across the UK. We have over 15 years experience in the industry, exclusively focused on recruiting senior quality assurance leaders and QPs. If you want to learn more about Assured Bio's recruitment services, or if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, then please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.